Hi everyone, it's Mary Tabak, and today we're talking about building relationship skills with your kids. And if you're watching this today, you already know how important your relationship with your child is to their overall happiness and success. But it's not good enough for us to know that relationships are important. We have to do something about it. So today we're going to highlight some skills that are critical to having a great relationship with your child. It's great because we can identify and build and practice some of these skills while your kids are still young. So by the time they're older and in the teenage years, you'll be an expert. Let's start with reviewing some of the relationship things we learned in the last video. Research tells us that strong relationships are a key ingredient to child and youth positive development. So relationships of all kind will benefit our child, but the relationships they have with their parents from the day they're born for the rest of their life will be the most important relationship in their life. So let's make it a positive one. We know that relationships don't happen by accident. They have to be intentional. We have to think about building relationships just like we think about going to work and all the things we have to do to get to work, or all the things we have to do to take care of our homes. We also have to stop and think for a minute, how are we going to build relationships within our family that will strengthen every member of our family? We know that with relationships, small things make a big difference. So with relationships, we're not asking you to overall how your family functions or how it is that you interact with your family. We're saying there's some really key small things that make a big difference when we pay attention to them. The great thing about relationships is there's lots of places to learn about how to do this right. There's lots of amazing books out there, great TED Talks where you can learn. We can go to see a therapist to learn about relationships. We can even take courses in relationship skills. The important thing to know here is that as adults and related to our children, the quality of the relationship is the adult's responsibility. So it's on us as parents to get this right. The best way to build relationships is to have a great relationship with yourself, and that means taking care of yourself. So in a busy life, when we're busy taking care of all those other things, it's important to stop and take care of ourselves. What skills do you think are important when it comes to relationship building? There's really so many. Compassion, empathy, patience, listening, communication, mindfulness, respect, responsibility. There's tons of skills that we could be talking about when it comes to relationship building. But today we're going to focus on 4 that I think that you can practice now when your kids are little, and when the exciting teen years get here, you'll be ready to go. Many of us have good relationship skills, but where did we learn these relationship skills? Was it in school? I don't think so. We learned our relationship skills from our parents and where we grew up. And most of us would like to make some changes when it comes to that. Am I right? So when you think about relationships and you think about how much time we spend preparing for a job or a career, an education could take 14, 15 years to prepare us for a job or a career. But how long do we actually spend preparing for the most important relationships in our life? So these skills are great because they're skills that we can learn and master, and it can improve our own life in many different areas of our life. Once you have relationship skills and good relationship skills, they will benefit you at work, with your extended family, with your neighborhood, with any professionals that you interact with any people that you interact with. Relationship skills are great. But having these relationship skills in order to use them with your children so that you can build the best relationship with your children that you can possibly have is the focus of today's presentation. So what skills are we focusing on today? The first one is emotional openness. So this can be called by many different things. It can be called emotional literacy, emotional intelligence. We're talking about feelings, and a lot of people roll their eyes when we talk about feelings, but we know from the research, especially the last 10 years of research related to emotional intelligence, how important this is for us and for our children as they grow up. So this is really all about, it's very simple. It's about recognizing your own emotions and recognizing somebody else's emotions. So it's about focusing on emotions rather than people's words or behaviors. So that when you see something happening, you don't focus on what is happening and what somebody is saying. You're trying to find what is the emotion behind what is happening in front of me. And when I think about this, I think about the first time I heard my youngest son swear. He said a bad word, and I'll never forget that day, but he was outside playing with his brother and sister in the backyard. I was in the kitchen. He came running through the sliding door, up the stairs, and on his way up the stairs, he knocked over a picture frame that had a picture of our family in it, broke. So there was now broken glass on the stairs, and he was at the top of the stairs swearing. So, and there I was at the bottom of the stairs in shock and awe. So I was worried about the broken glass. I was upset about the frame that was broken, and I was in shock with the words that were coming out of his mouth. And that is what I focused on in the next 15 minutes, cleaning up the glass, making him feel bad about that broken picture, and then trying to figure out what I was going to do with all these the swear words that were coming out of his mouth. And I never actually did get to what was actually going on behind all of that, to what he was angry about. He was angry about something. And when I asked him about that today, he doesn't remember what he was angry about, but he remembers the broken picture frame. And so I see that as a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to get to know our children better, to build a relationship where they can rely on us no matter what feeling that they're feeling, that they can come to us. So I really encourage you to look for the feelings that are behind the words and the behaviors that you're seeing. We know that from research, people who are in touch with their feelings are healthier, they're happier, they have increased self-esteem, they're confident, they have better social skills. These are all the things that we want our kids to grow up having. And we wonder, how can we teach our kids these skills? And the best way to teach it to them is by having them watch us and in the way that we respond to them. Under emotional openness, empathy is a skill that a lot of people talk about and that you'll hear a lot about. And it's a very important one when you're raising children, because it's about putting yourself in their shoes in that moment. If I had put myself in his shoes in that moment, I would have been able to pause and think about what is going on with him versus anything else that was happening. So it's not about him trying to give me a hard time. It's about he's having a hard time. I don't know who said that, but I thought it was brilliant. But somebody else did say that. So kids are not trying to give us a hard time. They're actually having a hard time. And so we need to be able to quickly put ourselves in their shoes to figure out what's going on. And the easiest way to do that is by saying, you seem angry. Are you angry? And helping them learn about what different feelings there are in the world. Are you angry? Are you excited? Are you sad? Are you hopeful? Are you passionate? How are you feeling in this moment? So it's just one small thing that can make a big difference in an interaction between you and your child. So I encourage you to think about practicing emotional openness. The next one is self-regulation. Really, it's a big word for, I think, when I think of self-regulation, I think of self-control. And we talk a lot about self-regulation when it comes to kids and kids learning about self-regulation, which is really about taking a pause between the time you have a feeling and then that there's an action on that feeling, and the pause in between, the length of that pause. So when you have a baby, for example, and they feel pain, they cry right away. So the length of that pause is very, very short. And as our kids grow, the pause, we're hoping, will get larger. But you all know adults in your life where you've all probably been witness to road rage. Something happens on the road and somebody starts freaking out. That's an example of somebody that is not practicing self-regulation and monitoring their own feelings. I remember when my daughter was at the park, she was probably 3 or 4, and I remember like it was yesterday, she was crawling up this jungle gym. And it was her first time crawling up the big one, the big ladder at the park. And when I look back on my time with my kids when they were 0 to 5, I remember being in fear a lot. and that fear ruled a lot of what I did. And that day in particular, I remember her climbing up on that jungle gym. She was wearing a red coat with big hair. And I remember all I could see was her falling and hurting herself. And instead of acting on that feeling, I closed my eyes until she got to the top, because what we're interested in is growing this beautiful young girl to be an independent, strong woman. And so reacting to my fear versus her independence, her excitement about getting to the top was more important than what I was feeling. And so I felt very proud of her because she got to the top, but I was also proud of me for knowing enough to stop, understand that I was feeling fear, that maybe it wasn't rational because she was safe. There was lots of safety in the playground for her, and that I needed to do a different action rather than stop her from climbing on that jungle gym. So that's what self-regulation is about. It's really about the pause between the time that you feel something and the time that you act on it. Sometimes I think of self-regulation like the weather, because adults and parents have a humongous influence in what happens in their homes. It's really important to sort of think about when you come home from work, say, what weather are you bringing into the house? So this is one of the ways that I think about it because I'm more visual. And when I used to drive home from work, I used to sit in my driveway and think, okay, what weather am I bringing into the house? It was a really bad day at work, but I don't want to bring that into my home and create an evening that's uncomfortable for my family. So I would sit in the car. I might listen to music. Sometimes I would just be in silence and I would just reset myself. It's a little harder sometimes when you're working from home because there's not as much time where you can get away and take a moment to regulate before you come into the house. But sometimes I think, what kind of weather am I bringing into this situation? What kind of weather am I bringing to the dinner table tonight? Am I stormy? Am I foggy? Am I out in left field? Am I sunny? What kind of weather am I bringing to my family? So that's another way you can think about self-regulation. It's all about mindfulness. So you hear a lot about mindfulness these days and being present in the moment. So it's about, let's not be on autopilot when it comes to raising our kids. Let's not just react to the things that are happening around us with our kids. Let's practice that pause so that we can make a choice in what action we want to take in our homes. So what do you do when you're pausing? Well, if you're angry, sometimes it's good to take a time out. So if there's something in the home that's making you angry with your child, sometimes it's good to say time out, and you might only just need a few seconds. And at different times, I've said, hold on a minute, I'm going to get a glass of water. So you can leave the situation, take a pause physically when you're angry, maybe get a glass of water and just take a minute to yourself. Or breathe. Sometimes it's just good to breathe when you're in a pause. With fear and anxiety, sometimes in that pause, it's good to change the way that you're thinking about it. I remember I had a note in one of my kids' agendas that their teacher wanted to talk to me the next day. And that's all she put in the agenda. Mrs. Tabak, please call me. I need to talk to you in the morning. So the rest of that night, I was like, uh-oh, what did my kid do wrong? Isn't that what we all think usually? So then it was like, okay, kid, what did you do at school today? Trying to figure out what this conversation was going to be about. But all I had to do was stop for a minute, understand that note made me fearful and maybe anxious. And I could change my thoughts in that moment thinking, maybe she wants to tell me something my kid did good. Maybe she needs help with something. There's so many different reasons a teacher would want to speak to you. So instead of creating a night that was uncomfortable for myself, I could have changed my thoughts and de-escalated that kind of thinking. And actually the next morning, all she wanted to know is if I was interested in speaking to the class about a topic she was interested in. So it turned out to be a good thing. So sometimes it's about changing our thoughts when we're in that pause. If we're feeling hurt, sometimes it's important to talk and tell people how you're feeling in that pause. So there's different things to do, but that's how I think about self-regulation. And those are some quick tips related to that one that you can practice too. The third skill that I thought would be important is positive communication. And this is when it all really comes together. It builds on being emotionally open to feelings and self-regulation, because now you've got a feeling and you have an opportunity for a pause. And it's what happens after. What are you going to communicate? So the thing about words is that words can really hurt, or they can heal. They can tear somebody down, or they can build somebody up. And I feel like oftentimes we take our words for granted because they're free. It's easy access. And sometimes we speak without stopping to think. And it's our words where our children form some of their most basic ideas about the world. So our words become extremely important. And when kids are little, don't we do a lot of talking? We do a lot of talking, right? We're telling them what to do. We're telling them what's going to happen next. We're telling them about the trees and the birds and the bees and everything. We do a lot of talking. But as they get older and as they grow, it's important that we start talking less and that our communication becomes a little bit more intentional. It's important that our communication becomes more about listening, and it becomes about asking questions, because we want our kids to develop those skills of talking, of sharing, of planning, of thinking about what's coming next. Communication becomes really important when you're in conflict with your children too. Conflict isn't about a win-lose situation. And sometimes in parenting, because we're the adult and they're the child, we have power, they have none. So it sets up conflict to be a win-lose situation. If you're practicing positive communication, conflict becomes about win-win. It becomes two people that are being heard and two people that are being respected. So positive communication is really important. And this is one of those things that as kids grow older, the issues become a little more complicated. And it's good to have these skills down where you can listen, ask questions, and speak in a way that is respectful, but that you're also being respected. The other thing about communication I want to highlight is body language, which isn't often talked about when it comes to communication. It's more about what we say. I want to talk to you about body language because a lot of the signals our children get from us come from body language. So, for example, eye contact. If you're not looking at your child when they're talking to you, then they don't think you're listening. So it's about putting down the cell phone, closing your laptop, getting down on your knees so that you're at eye level when they want to talk to you. It's about mirroring what they're saying to them, asking more questions about what they're saying, because it's really important what they have to say. I remember as my kids were growing, one of my kids, I said to them, I'm feeling a little distant from you lately. Is everything okay? And he said to me, well, you're always angry. And I was shocked because I don't think I'm angry at all, ever. But in the last little while, I reflected that it had been very busy. And really, when our faces are still and don't have a smile on, sometimes our kids think we're angry. And so it's important that when our kids come into the room, that we light up, that our eyes light up, that we smile when they enter the room. That is part of positive communication, that our bodies turn toward them, that we are open. Because as they get older and into their teen years, 90% of the communication they will get from you will be body language. And they tend to repel from negative. For any negativity, they leave the room. So this is an important skill for you to practice while your kids are little, and you'll be a real expert at it when they're older. The last skill I want to talk about is love and affection. And this one is unique to family. You can practice those other skills at work, when you go out to the store, with almost anybody else. But love and affection is homegrown, right? It's reserved for those people in your life that are the most special to you. So when it comes to love, it's about celebrating love in your family. So how do you do this? You can say it, you can show it, you can put it on a sign, you can paint it, you can write letters, you can do random acts of kindness. You can, even for Valentine's Day, actually this last Valentine's Day, My family, my kids are young adults now, and I ask them to come to dinner reflecting love. Wear something that reflects love. And so it was just a fun activity where we could come together and celebrate love, family love. And so the other thing about this one is that there is a great book out there called The 5 Different Love Languages, and everybody gives and receives love differently. So it's important to learn how individuals in your family like to give and receive love. So that's an interesting article. You can look it up online, or you can read about it in that book. But this is a very important and unique part of being in a family, is to express love. And when I think about this one, I think about my dad, who never said I love you. And that was a sort of a bone of contention and kind of a joke growing up, that he never would say this, and we were always trying to get him to say this. And of course, the more we were bugging him, the less he would. But he worked his butt off for us. And that was his way of showing us that he loved us, was his acts of service, and how hard he worked for us as a family was the way that he showed us his love. And I wish I had known that back then. It might have been, a little less rocky. The next one is affection. So love is about I love you. Affection is about I like you. So it's about spending time together. It's about maybe finding some hobbies that you like to do together. It's about hugs and snuggles and hand holding and shoulder massages and wrestling and playing basketball together and doing those kinds of things. So affection is really about I like you and I like spending time with you. And this is an easy one to do when the kids are little. But as they grow, this one changes. And love and affection, I guess you could start emotional openness and self-regulation and positive communication. I guess you could start getting good at those skills in the teen years, and it would be of benefit. But love and affection, you really need to start now and continue in a consistent way into the teen years. This is one that is very difficult to start in the teen years. So I would encourage you to start this one now and continue it as the kids grow, and find new and different ways to celebrate love and affection in your family. So just to wrap up, some of the quick wins that we can all do to practice our relationship building skills. We can practice saying maybe. So some of our kids, when we say no, what reaction do they have when we say no? We say no a lot as parents. We're the gatekeepers to yes and no, but there is a middle ground there. There's a maybe. And so this is a quick win. So when we know when you say no, and we know when you say what or why, we already know that pulls your kid out of their emotional brain and into their thinking brain. And we don't want to do that just yet. So if your little one says, hey, can I go across the road and play with Joshua? And you say, no, you haven't finished your cleaning your room. I don't know. Right away, there's a response when they hear that no. And then there's a behavior. So practice saying, yes, maybe. Yes, maybe. Is there anything else you need to do before you go play with Joshua across the road? So yes, maybe is extremely powerful. And if you can get into the habit of saying that kind of a thing, it can be very helpful for your relationship. So the other thing is, yes, maybe, tell me more. Sometimes we make yes, no decisions very quickly as parents without getting all the information. Tell me more is very powerful. So if your child says, I'm angry, sometimes we jump into, let's fix it. Why are you angry? We pull them right out. Tell us why. Your child says, I'm angry. Say, tell me more. I want to hear more about that. And let them be in that a little bit longer and work through it so that you can have some more information. And it builds a more meaningful, more intimate relationship. The other powerful thing is to say, I'm sorry when you make a mistake. Our kids don't need their parents to be experts or superheroes. Our kids need their parents to be real people that make mistakes and have successes and have failures. And our kids need to hear all those things. And I'm sorry is extremely powerful. Give yourself a timeout when you need one. So it can be a quick one, like getting a glass of water, Or it can be a 2-day one. If you have somebody to take care of your kids every once in a while, get a break. It can be also very powerful when families can miss each other a little bit and get a time out to take care of yourself. Very important. Quick wins, put your words on paper. Sometimes we're not good at coming up with the right words in the moment, but we can always sit down later when we've had a chance to think things through and put something on paper. This is very powerful too when your kids get a cell phone. One of my relationships with one of my kids got a lot better, actually, when he got his cell phone, because I was able to take time to write a message, to ask how his day was, to communicate on the phone versus in person. So putting your words down on a paper or when they're older on a text can be very powerful. So I'm sorry about the way breakfast went this morning. I was in a hurry to get to work. Very powerful. Follow their interests. So kids will show you lots of interest, that little spark that they get in their eye when they learn about something new. Following their interest shows them that you care about them, shows them that you're interested in what they're interested in, and shows them that you're willing to take the time and that they matter and that they're important. Following their interests is extremely powerful as they grow older and older. Quick wins, having your eyes light up when they walk into a room. This is also very powerful for not just your kids, but everybody else's kids. When kids walk into a room, the person who says hello and their eyes light up and you spend a moment, that kid knows that you care right away from that brief interaction. So that's a good one to practice. When your kids walk in the room, look up from your screen, put your cell phone down, look up from your book, whatever you're doing, just look up and meet their eyes, smile, and say hello. It's a really good habit to get into. Play and have fun whenever you can. Obviously, that's easy when your kids are little. It gets harder as they grow. So find traditions, find things that you like to do together that you can do as they grow. It's really important to have fun and laugh and do all kinds of things together. Remember about that pause. Always remember about that pause. You have a choice to make as an adult. You are responsible for the quality of the relationship between your child because you have life experience, because you have access to resources, because you have people to talk to and talk to about relationships, because you can call a professional and ask your questions. Practice your pause. Really important. And of course, practice. Practice makes perfect. Practice your relationship skills now so that you are really good at your relationship as your kid grows in through the teen years and into adulthood. It will be the greatest gift that you can give your child. Building relationship skills will never be a waste of time. They will benefit you in all areas of your life. And the greatest gift you can give your kids is a lifelong, healthy relationship with you. I wish you all the best on your skill building journey. From my home to yours, I wish you love and light and joy. Thank you for being with me today. I'd also like to thank the good folks at Oakville Parent-Child Center and the Early On Center for their commitment, their wisdom, and their ongoing support for the families in Oakville. Thank you so much for supporting this video series. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.